Hey, and welcome to the Beer Hammer podcast. We're all kinds of fancy and stuff doing podcast things, talking about Warhammer 40K, Games Workshop stuff, all your normal things for you and your buddies who want to play beer and pretzel games in your basement, drinking beer, talking about games. That's what we're doing. Tonight's show, I'm joined by Derek again.
Hiya.
That's actually his last name, is again. It's true story. And Joe Thompson.
Hello. How's it going?
Joe smells strangely of mushrooms and old socks.
This place reminds me of Santa's workshop. Except it smells like mushrooms. Everybody looks at me like they want to hurt me.
I'm sure that was relevant somewhere. But yeah, we got some stuff today. We're going to talk about Chapter Approved 2018 and all the fancy things. Now, I will tell you that we're not going to go over the stuff that every other podcast you may or may not listen to has gone over, which is the points changes and look at these rules for this unit or look at these things for that unit or this, that, whatever. No, we're going to go over other stuff, mostly for like a lot of the narrative play and open play stuff I found digging through there earlier this week. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're also going to talk, of course, about some of our hobbying and gaming and things we have done over the intervening couple weeks since our last podcast. This is officially episode 13 for those who are counting.
Lucky 13.
Yeah, and we still have like 25 listeners. I'm amazed and impressed that many people give a shit about what we have to say.
Low standards.
I mean, you know, don't shoot high. You'll never be let down.
If you're not first, you're last.
Right? What Mama always told me. But and as for beer, I'm drinking a good old fancy traditional Yingling lager.
And now, see, I've got the Belgian Leffe Brune.
Very nice. And Joe here, I've got the Gimme the Brute. It's one of the new Brute IPAs. It's a double IPA. It says it's spritzy, hoppy, and dry.
It's low carb. Joe's not actually drinking beer. He's really drinking sweat drained out of a sorority girl's panties.
Yes, and the flavor is delicious. Plus, it's mixed with a little bit of alcohol. So
I doubt it. I despise IPAs.
This isn't Zima.
Derek's with me on that.
Oh yeah, no, you wish you had Zima. You're just sad that you have to go to Japan to get it.
Zima was horrible. Anyway, salute to everybody.
Cheers.
Yep, cheers.
All right.
And let's kick this mule square in the nuts. All right. Upcoming releases. I know that Wrath and Rapture has already gone on pre-order with all the fancy new Slanesh models and corn stuff, which is really nice and fancy. Other than that, I don't think there's a whole lot new because Christmas.
Because
Yeah.
Christmas and slow season for me, so the paychecks are few and far between right now. So
Yeah. And not too much on the radar because I think, holidays upcoming kind of thing. GW usually slows down about this time after they release all their, Battle Force boxes and all that kind of stuff and their hobby project boxes and all that kind of nonsense. Not a whole lot on the rumor mill either, just because of, holidays. So anyway, we're going to get on to gaming and such.
When do they usually start back with the releases? Is it like spring or?
No, January.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. After
Wow.
the new year, they start kicking the gears back up again.
oh yeah, no, and it'll be, it's all the game companies are just going to be putting out as much as they can because let's face it, they're in business to sell toys.
Yeah, and people have money to burn afterwards. Usually there's gift cards and all that kind of junk. So
Oh yeah, and buying toys is awesome.
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah,
I like toys.
I'm definitely happy about the fact that they sell me my toys. I know over since the last podcast, we played some Kill Team. That was it was fun. It was a nice little 4-way battle between myself, Cody, Joe, and Derek. And I was playing Death Watch, which they're really good.
They were. Well,
I had fun.
They were until the Death Guard got into hand-to-hand combat with them.
Well, I have not had luck with
Then it was the
anything in hand-to-hand combat.
Then it was the big stinky bad touch, and lots of it.
But I mean, Death
It
Guard
was
kind
rough.
of good at that. Cody was playing his, Space Wolves Adeptus Astartes, and Joe was playing his non-chapter, non-painted Adeptus Astartes.
Yeah.
Aside from the ones that I painted that I gave you.
Yes. I know the rules with them now, though. That's and now that I have those rules down for that team, I'm eager to try another one. I've actually been starting to think about Tau a little bit now, or maybe Eldar. So I was going to go with Necron, but it didn't seem like it was going to diverge too much from the rule set I've already got with Adeptus Astartes. So it's like, why just switch if it's going to be pretty similar?
Yeah, they're Space Marines that stand back up. Very, very similar weapons, similar profiles. I mean, different lore and background and very different look to the models, obviously.
Sure. Yeah.
And they're crazy easy to paint. So
Yeah.
So if you want to crank out an entire army in one weekend, Necrons are the way to go.
Oh, really?
Oh my, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They paint so fast. Eric and I did a trade a little while ago, and I had some Inquisition models that were out of print that he wanted, and I was thinking about Necron, so we swapped the stuff, and yeah, I had half of what he had given me painted that night.
Oh wow!
I mean, because it's just they're I painted them to look rusty and moldy and like they'd just come out of a swamp. But even still, it was just from bare plastic. Someone had already put them together, and they were. When I say half the model's done, I mean half the model's done. It was 30 immortals and a couple dozen regular warriors and a bunch of other junk.
For those who don't know that listen, Derek and I actually text each other back and forth during the weekdays with weird screwball ideas for paint schemes for armies.
And horrible go fuck yourself ideas for army lists.
Yes. And his inspiration for his Necron army was from Futurama. It was when Bender comes crawling out of the swamp.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yes. These are the things we get inspired by.
Why my shiny metal ass?
Yep, I put together a whole bunch, or I painted up a whole bunch of bite my shiny metal swamp encrusted ass.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
So, alternatively, which army in your experiences is the most challenging or taxing to paint? Then is there one that just is like
I would say like the more challenging the models are, the more fun and enjoyable they are to paint.
Right,
like
that's
cool. And really that was what when Eric was tattooing me, and he just put a slideshow of all of the new Games Workshop stuff up on his computer. So that's all I could look at while he was tattooing my shoulder. In a
brainwashing,
yes, in a
subliminal,
in a very overhanded attempt to get me back into painting.
Yeah, I think it was straight up. You should get back into painting. Watch this, and then I started tattooing you.
Yeah. You're not going to be able to move for the next 4 hours. Here, I got just the thing. Let's look at pictures of models that you could buy. And the new Death Guard models just absolutely knocked me out. I mean, they were absolutely gorgeous. There's a ton of stuff going on. They're posed very dynamically, so they were really challenging to try to get everything to pop out of them.
They are fun to paint,
they were really fun to paint, and they're sort of things that I would look at, and if someone was looking at getting into things, if someone was a new painter, I'm thinking about doing Death Guard. Well, do it, but understand that it's going to be probably isn't going to come out looking like you think it's going to look right off the rip.
Well, I mean, yours turned out fantastic. I was actually just raving about it. I've got a couple other friends that are into 40K. Yeah, and one of them, he does commissions and stuff. And when I was kind of talking to him, he's like, well, Eric's pretty good. And I was like, yeah, Eric's pretty good, and his buddy Derek is, even
light years better.
And I was raving about the Death Guard. I was like, man, these things, every nook and cranny had some kind of like really awesome detail on it. Like you just thought of every single thing about it, and so I could see how if they're a little bit more detailed models like that with more options that it would be more fun.
And that was exactly it, because I don't really, you describing it that way, I don't really think that I did all that much to them other than just take them as the three-dimensional coloring book they were and just draw inspiration from the models themselves. There was so much. I mean, they're covered in maggots and pus and sores and drippy snot stuff. And it's just like there's so much you can get into. I wanted to bring out everything to make them look just absolutely horrible and you're going to catch something by touching the model.
Yeah, one of the Death Guard because I finally broke down and started painting some of the Death Guard that I've had for forever. And I literally had to turn the model around 6 times. It's really interesting, the mental process of, did I find every maggot? I don't think I've ever had that thought before.
# did I find every maggot?
Right.
Trending on Twitter today.
Where was that hidden pustule? But the Death Guard are a lot of fun to paint. Honestly, for me, I'm kind of with you, Derek. The things that are more challenging to me is stuff like the Necrons, which is just doldrum. Okay, I paint them all silver. Now I dry brush. Now I wash. Now I paint the guns black.
Gotcha.
That standard. This is supposed to be how you paint them for the basic look. Now, I mean, you can get crazy with them and do candy tints and all kinds of cool stuff with them if you want to, or do the weathering effects and things that make them much more interesting. But if you just go for that basic paint job that they're shown in the Codex and in the White Dwarf and crap, it's just kind of like, and another 20 warriors down. I have done the same thing a billion times in a row. Yep. And that's worse than sitting there picking out all the details of pustules and maggots. I mean, even new painters that may be intimidated by models like the Death Guard, man, grab them, because you're only going to learn something from it.
Yeah, so, exactly. And I would even go so far as to say, like, of the starter box game that's got the Death Guard and the Space Marines in it. The Space Marines are the harder ones to paint,
really,
because they're super clean models. Mm-hmm. They're a lot of big, broad, flat surfaces.
Every mistake shows.
So yeah, every like if you have trouble with your blending, you're going to see it on a shoulder pad. If you have,
no way to hide it.
No. Whereas again, those Death Guard models, any of the new ones from like the Rogue Trader Kill Team set, or the Blackstone Fortress set, like those have got a ton of stuff going on. So any mistakes that you've got, you're not going to notice.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it hides in the details.
So it's almost like the more detailed and the model is, the more creative you can be with it.
Right. Yeah. So we'll get back to our games that we played, because there's more to talk about there before we get into the hobby meat and potatoes, and we'll remember some of this stuff for the hobby bits. But yeah, so we did play, the four-way man kill team, and had a lot of fun. And Derek, that was one of your second times playing, third times?
Playing kill team, yeah. Which was great. I haven't played enough of it to really get into the doing the experience and building up the kill teams and whatnot. And that also comes from playing a different one each time, which is one of the things I like about Kill Team is
try them all.
Play every damn army in the game without breaking the bank.
Right. And the plan is that once, we kind of have a regular crew that's showing up on Thursday nights, and everybody kind of has the rules pretty much down pat, and we're doing this, we'll eventually move on to trying commanders, and then once we're done with that, I want to set up a narrative campaign.
That'd be cool.
To kind of play as a Thursday night narrative thing for everybody, so that we can do the experience points and have our kill teams evolve and see how that works, because that really constructs the narrative of the game.
I see that as being the perfect environment for my Gene Stealer cult.
Yes. The other thing, let's see. I also played Blackstone Fortress with Joe on Sunday.
Yes, and I was also a kill team, but I lost horribly because I was gloating for my previous win, because it was like my 7th or 8th game, and I'd lost or tied every single previous game. So I got my ass handed to me because I did a minor bit of gloating in our little Facebook group. And yeah, so everybody, all three other teams came at me, and I was served a nice slice. No, yet the whole humble pie. So,
Yeah.
but there's some experienced 40K players there. So, I mean, I think I did it. No, I failed horribly. So, but yeah, Blackstone Fortress was awesome. I really enjoyed it.
We found that as a game, it's very, very interesting because it's very just kind of open. You set up the game board as per whether you have kind of two different things. You have challenges or combats. And if you have combat, you set up a lot more kind of a board, and then it actually has, the enemies come on. It's cooperative. So like you give the leader token to somebody, and depending on how many people you're playing with, depends on how the leader token kind of moves around. But, a lot of times the leader will roll the random dice for the enemy, and they all have random behavior profiles. So you're playing a completely cooperative game. Everybody who's playing is on the same side, basically. The combat system is pretty quick. The system for how to do things is pretty quick and intuitive because you basically have activation dice. So, if you want to move, you roll 4 dice for your, characters, whichever ones you're doing that combat or challenge with. You roll these 4 dice, whatever they are, you put them on the, your little character card has 4 square boxes on it that you put your dice in. And if you want to move, you just need a dice that's 1 or higher. And so you use that dice to activate your movement, and then you can move whatever your move score is on your actual stat card. And then if you want to attack, you need like a 3-up or a 4-up, depending on the attack, or sometimes a 1-up if it's kind of a weaker attack that your character has. And, different special things. You could even search areas that have discovery tokens on them, depending on the way the challenge or the combat's set up, to see if you can find. And, the big thing to find is Archaeotech or clues. And so as you go through these challenges and explorations, you basically have, 4 combat cards and 4 challenge cards every time you play. And as you go through these things, the idea is to collect Archaeotech and clues amongst your party. And then once you're done, you actually have another little sideboard that has everybody's ships. And everybody's ship has certain facilities on it that you can use. And you have cards that have certain upgrades to your characters, like plasma grenades and different weapons or relic weapons. And as you get Archaeotech, you can use that to buy these upgrades to your character. And then you save the clues, because once you get 4 clues, you can do a stronghold assault. And then, of course, once you do 4 stronghold assaults, you can open up the hidden vault of the Blackstone Fortress and actually go through that. And then, it comes with a little pouch that has a card that's sealed in it that has some juicy tidbits of lore and whatnot, that once you defeat the Blackstone Fortress, you're allowed to open that up. I mean, of course, you could be a kid on Christmas and just open it anyway, and who gives a shit if you play the game or not. But that's not the spirit of things, and that's not how we do stuff around here.
Yeah, and I will say, I'm a relatively new player for the whole miniature thing. Eric and I have played some Star Wars stuff in the past, and I'm a long-time RPGer. I've been playing the old school RPGs. I was an AD&D second edition player for campaign for 5 years. So I mean, I've kind of gone through the motions of all that. But with Blackstone Fortress, I found it to be the most accessible and the easiest rule set so far of anything 40K related that I played. And Kill Team's really intuitive too. There's a lot more rules to it, but I feel like with Blackstone Fortress, you can come in knowing nothing about miniature board gaming at all.
Well, it's really more a board game than a miniature game.
Sure,
it really is.
Sure, and I was really impressed by the quality of like the set itself and the models. The models were incredibly well detailed, especially for them to be like one-piece models. They weren't put together, so I was really impressed. I had a lot of fun with it. It was just it felt just very fluid.
And then the second game we played was Song of Ice and Fire, as I had just gotten the Night's Watch starter army box.
And they are beasts. Big time.
Oh, they are good stuff. Because, you thought you killed my unit, but you didn't. Because I heal everything back up. Because the Night Watch has nothing but manpower. and all they do is recruit.
I swear they have a red witch sitting back there, like just resurrecting people left and right. You know.
Oh yeah,
that's awesome.
And Maester Aemon on the political board, he's awesome because if you take over certain spots on the political board, every time you do, you get to heal a unit D3 +1 wounds. And if you take over the political board thing where you're healing, those wound stacks. You could literally be down to like 1 rank and get almost back up to full ranks in your infantry tray just from that one.
That's fantastic.
Oh, it's amazing. It's awesome.
Yeah, Aemon was awesome, and it's true to character because, like, you know, in the show and in the books, I mean, Aemon's a power player. He's just kind of reserved and behind the scenes, and right. Yeah, really well done.
Yeah, I mean, that game is really well done. Joe played the Starks, and we didn't quite have enough time to finish the game. But
I was losing.
I wouldn't say you were losing. We were pretty even. I mean,
yeah.
I mean,
and that game can make some twists and turns as far as like who's ahead and who's behind.
Like in Greatjon and Umbers, his barbarians were like pretty much unstoppable. I mean, you know, although when they kill somebody, they also kind of kamikaze and die themselves. But I mean, they are beasts. I mean, just as their ranks lower, they get more powerful, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, I didn't remember that from the card before. That when you're down to 1 rank, you're rolling 10 dice for attacks.
It goes 8, 9, 10 because as you're losing them, they get into a
more
berserker
furious.
rage.
Yeah. So you know, and that is one of the things I can say about that game in particular. You know, even though I really love Games Workshop and their products and the way the company has changed and the things that they do, but I can say that honestly, Song of Ice and Fire is an amazing game.
Oh, it's that the formation based big infantry game that's interesting to play. It's not it's not boring as shit to play. Where you know, it's all of it, and it's all of the little. They did such an excellent job crafting all of the little simple, seemingly simple special rules for each and every army's stuff that allows them to play in the character of the characters in the stories.
Right. And that's what's impressed me. I mean, as a huge Game of Thrones fan, I've watched the entire series through at least 5 full times through, and the individual episodes, I can't even count how many times. But, you know, and also as an artist, I appreciate the aesthetics for it. I mean, it was really impressive the way it looked, the way it played. Everything was true to the characters and true to the crests and the families. I mean, I had a blast playing it. So it was a lot of fun.
Same here. And I mean, the models for being, you don't got to put nothing together. I mean, I literally had got the Night's Watch box set like a night or two before. I think it was Friday night. And we were playing Sunday, and I had literally just kind of opened the thing and looked at some of the unit card. But I opened it up, pulled everything out of the box, and was playing. I mean, within 20 minutes of setup time.
And that's Cool Mini or Not, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's so impressive to see where they came from and where they're at now, putting out that game. That's just really cool.
Yeah, it's Cool Mini or Not. And then I think the miniatures are actually produced by, I believe it's Dragon Age Miniatures or Dark Age Miniatures. I can't remember what the name of the company is that makes the miniatures for it. But it's Cool Mini or Not rules and whatever their miniature company is that they're using I think it's a subsidiary of them that does the miniatures also. And
regardless of who it is, they did a bang up job on that one
for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I really love the way that political board plays into the battlefield. You know, and that they did an amazing job because you look at it and you're like, oh, there's these few slots. Who cares? And my political guy has this card that does this thing, and he's a couple points out of my army. All right, whatever. But then when you get into something like Cersei Lannister, who's ruining your morale checks to the point where you're losing ranks of dudes every turn because she's sitting on the wrong spot on that board, or the right spot for her, you know, or like Master Aemon, who's just like, you're just like, I cannot kill this unit because I knocked down a few guys and then they get more right back, you know, and it's ridiculous.
And that's all true to character too. Yeah. I mean, I would say, you know, I mean, I've played a decent bit of board games, but it's probably the best, like, existing IP based like kind of board game style that I've actually played before.
That's true to the IP.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and I mean, one of the tactics cards I didn't get to use because I didn't get it in my hand, but that I saw, it's called Take the Black. And what happens is you're engaged with an enemy. I believe you have to be engaged with an enemy unit in melee combat, and you steal their captain.
Oh, that is awesome.
You take him off their infantry base and put him on yours, and he's now, whatever his bonuses are, whatever he does it for your unit.
Oh, that's fantastic.
And that's the way the game works. That's
Yeah.
That's the way the story works, man. That's beautiful.
Take the black.
Yeah, the guy decides to join the Night's Watch, and he's yours for a turn or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
What are you, some kind of raper?
Of course. So, Derek, did you play anything in the past couple weeks?
No, just I've just been painting like crazy. I was able to clean off my gaming table, which has been covered with crap for the last 6 years. So that is now seeing the light of, well, it's not the light of day. Got a bunch of scenery painted up to go on said table, and then have been just painting models left, right, and center.
Yep, I've been doing a little bit of painting myself, working on the Eldari kill team and finishing up the Death Guard, the one guy for the Death Guard, and started working on the Eldari. And thanks, Joe. Joe just got me a beer. And I'm having a lot of fun painting the Eldar models too. So good stuff.
Eldar is probably one that I'm, and actually it's based off of Blackstone Fortress. Those what were they called? Kroots?
The Kroots are Tau.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah. No. Oh, it was the Ranger. The Ranger was
Amalin Shadow Guide, or however you say her name.
Yeah. So both of those based off of Blackstone Fortress. I had some interest in both of those armies as a result of that, because I was like, oh, I can have one of these Rangers in Eldar, and I can have one of these Kroots in the Tau. So I mean, that kind of spurned some interest for me.
Well, in 40K, Kroot are mediocre at best.
Oh, really?
You take them as meat shields, basically. No. If you take them,
or if you play like I do, you just take them because the models look cool and you like the storyline, and you put them on the board, and then you figure out what they're going to do.
See, that's what I was looking at.
Which we're going to get into that in a little bit here.
Because that Kroot model, I mean, he looked just dynamite, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Big old sniper rifle, big spines coming out of the back of his head. I mean, just looked neat as heck. He looked like a bounty hunter from like Star Wars.
Because I like to talk about where certain things and design aspects come from.
Yeah.
A lot of people may or may not know this, but the Kroot are actually designed from a creature out of Thai and Southeast Asian mythology, the Garuda.
Really?
Yes.
What is the Garuda?
It is a basically a man-like creature with kind of a reptilian bird-looking head. He's got the same, when they picture him in their stuff, he's got that same like crested kind of spiky mohawk-looking deal, and then he's got the same kind of beak. I mean, it is a very. They literally took these drawings of the Garuda and said, I wonder what this would look like as an actual alien. Nice. And they made the Kroot. And it's a very faithful representation. Some of the Garuda are pictured with wings and things like that, but it's a very faithful representation of that. And so I love the Kroot just for the whole Thai, Garuda aspect of it, because it's really cool.
That's really awesome. Yeah, the models on Blackstone Fortress were just really impressive to me.
I liked them because they're space parrots.
Oh yeah. It's funny because in one of the novels, they're talking about how the Kroot, when the Imperial infantry that's gone for the greater good and have joined the Tau, that they're basically it's the Last Chancers novels, because they're infiltrating some of the Tau stuff. They're pretending to be Imperials that are going over to the Tau. And so they're actually kind of on a war front with a bunch of other ex-Imperial guys that are mercenaries now for the Tau, and they're hanging out with these mercenary Kroot. And as they're sitting around, the Kroot will start whistling and mimicking artillery shells to watch all the humans start ducking and covering.
Really?
To joke with them and mess with them, yeah. Because they communicate with bird-like whistles and clicks and clacks and things like that. That's their language.
Okay.
And they can speak Gothic, the Imperial Standard language, but they, it's heavily accented from what the novels say, but their actual language is, these weird clicks and chirps and things like that.
Nice. So if as a new
Space parrots.
For space parrots, quack.
Yeah, I always wanted to do some and paint them up like bright green with flame orange feathers. And
It'd be cool too. You could totally go Monty Python with it and put them all laying down on their bases. And when they're like, "Why are all your crew laying down on their side?" Be like, "They're pining for the fjords."
I'm not dead yet.
Have a few bases that have like a little wooden perch on it and have them like obviously nailed through the feet to the perch. I found the only reason he's on his perch is because you nailed him there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So if somebody, speaking of the novels, just on that note, where like as a kind of 40K noob, where do you start? Like where do you say like, hey, I'm interested, I'd like to read. What's the best place to start?
The cool thing with Black Library and the novels is that they have really done it so that whether you're reading a series or reading whatever, you can literally go into your iBooks, go into your Kindle, go into whatever, or go into a bookstore, heaven forbid, and you can grab a 40K book off the shelf and buy it and start reading it, and you're okay.
Okay. So
I recommend to start pretty much anything by Dan Abnett and Aaron Dembski Bowden are like two of my favorites. John French is also really good. Just it kind of depends on what you think is cool, because I mean there is the Horus Heresy series which you can get into, which that's a little bit better if you kind of read it from start to finish. But have fun with 50 books.
Yeah.
There's I really enjoy Dan Abnett's the Eisenhorn and Ravener series because they're about the Inquisitors, but it kind of shows he depicts a lot more of them interacting with Imperial citizenry than like this big warfare on a massive planetary scale.
Gotcha.
And so you get more of a feel of like what the average person is going through. But I mean, at the same time, a lot of Abnett's books do that where they kind of bring in that human element no matter what. Like the Gaunt's Ghost stories, as you get on with them, you're not just following this regiment of Imperial Guard, you're following them. He talks about how there's, people who they call them the followers of the strength. It's like this camp of wives and children and, other people and retainers and non-combat people that are, on the back lines of the battlefield, miles and miles and miles away, but are still part of it. And the interactions between them. And he even goes into like, the soldiers billeted on the ship and they're gambling and getting in rivalries with other regiments that are also billeted on this mass conveyor, transporting them across the stars and things like that. There's that. He did a Double Eagle, which is awesome. I mean, it literally reads like a World War II, like English, air battle, RAF kind of story, but in the 40K universe. Because I mean, he's talking about dogfights, but then in between the dogfights, he's talking about how this one pilot ends up, he always eats his lunch at the same cafe, and he meets the girl that works there, and she works the cafe and a double shift at the Munitorum factory and all this stuff, and it's like it kind of goes into all these elements between the characters of each other and what war does and how it affects all of their lives, more so than just, here's a space marine, he's running across battlefield, throwing grenades and blowing shit up. America, fuck yeah.
Woohoo! And I recognize the name Dan Abnett. He must have done something outside of 40K at some point.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh yeah, that's where I know the name from. I knew I recognized the name from something.
Yeah, when they resurrected the comic book from its initial iteration.
Yes, no, he did the 2012 version. Yes,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Yes, that's what.
And then he
yeah.
also helped with a screenplay of at least the first one. I don't know if he helped with the
No,
second
he
one.
did. He helped with James Gunn with the first one. Yeah, for sure. I'm a huge comic book nerd, by the way. Not that anyone cares or wants to know, but yeah. So
Comic books are dumb.
they're fucking cool, man. Shut up. I like my funny books.
I'm just kidding.
I know.
Why are you shaking your head at me?
Yeah, Derek has like literally no input on that. On that front, he's like, no,
No, it ain't
not
coming.
doing it.
Well, no. Well, it's as simple as this. Like the Games Workshop used to produce this amazing comic book called Warhammer Weekly
It
or
is
Warhammer
amazing.
Monthly, and
Yeah.
it was fantastic. And they stopped a long time ago, and it was really good comic books that were all the stories were set in the Warhammer universe, and I don't know why that was done away with. You can't get them anymore. I've got a stack of them at home, and they're great.
And especially since like right now, comics went through a decline, for a little while there, and then kind of came back, and then went through another decline. But now that like with the Marvel movies being so big and the DC movies being so big, comics are huge again.
Oh
So,
yeah,
I mean,
they're huge, and I know for me, I do not have time to read novels. I hate to say I don't have time to read books. I don't have time to read books.
Yeah.
But comic books, yeah, give me some pictures on it.
yeah, absolutely.
A couple lines of text per box, and yeah,
I love the art. I mean, obviously being art background, and that's what I do. And I actually like tattooing comic style art.
Yeah. He actually does.
Yeah. So I mean that's my enjoyment of comic books because I actually do like them.
Yeah, so if anybody at Games Workshop happens to be listening, how about resume some comics? Because some of us would really love to see that.
They are dipping their toes back into that pool because they have started re-releasing. They got and kind of picked up contract with Turn Signals on a Land Raider, which is a web comic that's web comic style. It's funny. It's more funny than amazing artwork, but it's funny. And then they came up with one that is kind of a comedic take on the whole Rogue Trader thing called Vainglorious. And that's a web comic that they've started doing. And they're probably going to go more that range. Now, I will tell you, nice little fancy update. They are doing an animated series that involves the Blood Angels, and I can't remember the name of it, but I saw the video this morning and saved it. And it looks like it's going to be much better than that god-awful Space Marine Ultramarines movie that they put out.
I'm a huge.
well, that's
fan
not
of
much of a
animation.
reach. So
Yeah, it's not hard to top that, unfortunately.
Was it bad?
The only reason to watch that movie, in my God's honest opinion, I mean, I feel kind of bad for saying this because I know how much work obviously went into it between the voice actors, which were all really, really good. But I think it was honestly the direction was like, you're a giant space marine. Oh, what's a space marine? Well, he's this big looking robotic guy. Okay, so I'm gonna talk like a robot, and so the
I
voice
am a
actors
robot.
just kind of got it wrong, and nobody directed them right because most of the voice actors are acclaimed actors and acclaimed voice actors who are really good,
Oh wow.
and it actually had a good cast to it. The CG animation is it was probably about 2-3 years behind when it was actually released, so it's not the best. And then the kind of plot and writing to it was literally like, it was almost like, oh, we want to throw together a movie to show people what it looks like for Space Marines to run around and blow shit up. Somebody write a script for this, but do it when you're taking a dump or distracted. and that was kind of like, it's just kind of this disjointed mess that literally is only interesting to watch because you're going, ooh, that's some Space Marines beating up on some bad guys.
yeah, it was really like they just took every bit of background, lore, story, fluff, and just threw it all the fuck away. And
Wow.
and tried to get somebody to narrate one half of a turn of a 40K game.
Huh.
without explaining to him what the fuck that was.
Yeah, and honestly, I had really, really high hopes for it. I even bought the collector's edition and all that jazz.
Oh, damn.
And like I said, I appreciate the artistic effort that went into it, and I really do enjoy it for that aspect. But I cannot, in any good conscious frame of mind whatsoever, tell anyone that it was an actual good product.
Yeah.
No matter how much I want it to be. Because I want to see that. Now, there are some things like the Lord Inquisitor, which is a fan-based CG film fic.
You showed me that one. That one is pretty impressive.
That one looks like it's going to be really good. The prologue and the other stuff he's released for it, I can't wait to see more of that one.
I'll tell you, I'd like to see. I don't know if you watched any of the teaser trailers they did for Blackstone Fortress.
Oh, those were good. Yeah,
those were amazing, and I like just the kind of 80s comic book cartoon TV show style that they did it in was fucking glorious. And
nice.
if they, I mean, that's one where I could sit there and watch an hour's worth of that.
Right. I mean, if they did animated stuff, say in that Ralph Bakshi wizard style, that'd be awesome.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it would give me such a feels for because that was the era I was watching that stuff. And the era that stuff came out was the Rogue Trader era.
Right.
Yeah.
And if they did
wizards and shit like that.
If they did Rogue Trader stories in that style animation, that'd
be awesome.
That'd be badass because I'd be like, man, this is awesome. Because honestly, you watch Wizards and you're like, this is exactly the kind of stuff that inspired the background of 40K.
Right.
This kind of stuff. And the animation just feels right on with it. And I love that movie. Anyway, but
the thing is though, like as a newcomer, I look at the IP and there's so much history and there's so much passion for it, and geek culture is at an all-time high. I mean, comic book movies are obviously the biggest movies in the world right now, and Star Wars is huge now, and so I mean, I feel like the world is just waiting for some great, incredible director who has a passion for the 40K stuff. Maybe Games Workshop, kind of hooks up with them and, creates, a really, authentic, realistic and well done, high quality, either film or animated series in that world. So,
well, they are definitely doing that because previous Games Workshop as a company was very big on anybody touches or puts their fingers on their IP or any of their images or any of the things that they consider theirs, they would come down on you with the wrath of God.
Oh wow!
And when they found the guy who was doing the fan film for Lord Inquisitor, they literally, the story on his blog, basically to paraphrase, kind of goes like, well, they found me and they kind of contacted me and I was kind of really nervous about it. And then they basically were like, you're doing a bang up job, carry on.
Oh, wow. That's cool.
And basically gave him their blessing.
I thought you were going to give me like a Nintendo story where a fan does something really awesome and Nintendo says, nah, that's ours. Sorry, guys. Even though it looks great.
They used to do that stuff. I mean, for if you printed 10 T-shirts for your gaming club, okay, you made more than one, then that's making a copy, so that's a copyright violation, and they would sue the shit out of you.
See, I mean, and that's and I say this as a Disney fan, that's the Disney effect. I mean, it's total control over the IP and doesn't let the fans really enjoy it the way they want to, and I don't think that's a good approach.
I mean, you have to have a balance, and that's the whole thing. If you are too iron steadfast on your IP, then it's going to make it unfun for your fans.
Exactly. Yeah.
If you are too lax about it, then it turns into something that is almost open source, and there's no way you can actually run a successful business. Because in the end, Games Workshop is a business. Warhammer 40K is an IP that they want to make a profit and pay their employees off of.
Sure.
And so, no, I don't have a problem with that. But, if you're going to try and come after me because I ran off 10 T-shirts that have the Aquila on them for my gaming club, and I didn't charge anybody for them or anything like that, or there was no money involved and all that. I just put some of your logos and symbols on it. that's a bit damn ridiculous. Now, if I'm selling them on eBay
then
for a hefty profit, then by all means, cease and desist the shit out of me and get the lawyers involved because I'm doing something stupid and wrong.
Sure, because that dilutes the brand. But I mean,
Right.
there's a line there, and it sounds like that Games Workshop is definitely going more towards the good balance.
They definitely have. I mean, they become a very different company in a few short years. I mean, to the point of making fun of the internet leaks, making fun of themselves. I mean, they put out when they announced that they were doing the Noise Marine model, they put out this 80s glam teaser trailer where they're like, in the wigs with the 80s glam rock shit like they're playing on stage, and just ridiculous. When they came out with which one was it? The Megajet Scrapjet or whatever. Whatever that one is. And they did that commercial that was just hilarious.
Yeah, there was like a German car commercial.
Yeah,
they smashed the old Gorka Morka buggy with a wrench.
Yeah, you can fly again. Wolf. And it's this rocket car that they've got the orcs hanging out of.
That's cool.
They did that. They did a lot of. They've gone a lot of that direction, and they did another little community video where they were showing some of the Warhammer TV studios, and based on what they were showing of the Warhammer TV studios, I think they are trying to get more involved with the TV media and more things like that to kind of bring 40K to a wider audience, because all in all, they want to make more money. They want to sell more toy soldiers. They want more people playing their game, which makes sense.
And that was my thinking was, you put an animated series on Netflix or a full feature film out there, you're going to inspire more fans. And so I mean, that as a newcomer, I look at things like that, just because that's what gains my interest. So that's kind of what I was asking.
Cool. Well, you want to move on to a kind of a short hobby segment, and then we'll start talking about chapter approved after that.
Sure, let's do that.
Let's do these things.
Let's do that.
Hobby forward. Now that we've yapped on about IPs and companies and IP Freely and Seymour Butts and all those guys, I was just showing Derek. I'd started painting some, like I said, my Eldari kill team, and I found a kind of a technique I've known about for a while, and I don't like giving a lot of technique names, because people come up with these stupid names for things. But just so you could look it up if you really wanted to on the internet, overbrushing, or kind of wet dry brushing, is what I used for the armor to kind of blend things.
And I got to say, just interjecting this right quick, Eric, so 2 out of 2 people have had to pull out flashlights to look at this model in this room of yours. You might want to invest in some new light bulbs.
Well, this is not the room I paint in, so I don't give 2 shits about the light bulbs.
And
I'm just saying.
I'm tired also. My eyes are a bit tired. It's been a rough last few days for me. So, but yeah, no, this thing looks dynamite, man. Wow.
And I started doing that, and basically the technique is that you get a little bit of paint on your brush, and you kind of flatten your brush out to be kind of almost like a dry brush kind of shape, and then you wipe a little bit off. You don't wipe a lot off. And then you just very lightly pick out those details. And you want to, it's a little more of an advanced technique, I guess, because you want to think about your lighting and how you want the model lit, because you want to move it from light to dark down the model and down the details. But it makes for a cool technique. It doesn't give you that scratchy, dry crap that I hate on dry brushing, because dry brushing would be the most amazing technique in the world if it didn't look like somebody had just spit a bunch of colored dust on your model.
Yeah, if it didn't look like chalk.
Oh, really? Is that what dry brushing looks like on a
gives
model?
it a very chalky look.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's really... I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can downtone it some with washes and things like that, but I just don't like it. Now, I did thin my paints a little bit, and I've gotten real big into using Lamium medium for thinning paints, because it is not quite the same as like acrylic medium and some of the other thinner mediums out there. There's something different to it. It does a different consistency and does a different thing with the paints. You can tell. I can't explain it, but it is different. And so I've invested in a butt ton of that stuff because it's awesome for thinning down your paints. I likes it a lot.
A lot. Yeah, the model turned out really cool. So, but I'm impressed by the model stuff because the one attempt I ever made at painting a model was abysmal at best. So,
I think one day maybe, me or maybe I'll talk Derek and myself and a few other people into coming over and actually doing a paint day. I've wanted to do one for a long time. Where
I'd love that. Yeah, that would be
techniques. Now, one of the things we were talking about is starting up the hobby league again at Vendetta, but we were talking about doing every other month was going to be, instead of a tournament gameplay event, an actual hobby event where you do the tournament gameplay, and then the next event we do is, you bought your next unit, your next points increase. So the next event we do is put them together and prime them and paint them.
Oh, that's cool. That's a
or
cool
at least
idea.
start painting them, and then you can finish the rest at home before the next gameplay event to get everybody together and hanging out and BSing and painting and stuff, because that's a lot of fun to do with a bunch of buddies around a table drinking beer and shooting the shit.
I like beer. So, I mean, again, I keep calling myself out, but as kind of a noob in the 40K thing, I mean, now to preface that, I've heard 40K for the last 15 plus years, hanging out with Eric, but as far as playing, I've done the kill team thing for the last few months. How often does Games Workshop put out like new armies for the 40K universe? Is that just really limited or what?
I mean, entirely new factions is relatively rare.
Okay.
But new units for armies, they will, if they're not doing new units, they will at least do new models for certain units and things like that. And they do it. It's hard to really say what they're going to do, because they went from releasing stuff like once every few months to now they're releasing crap almost every week.
Oh, wow.
So they're eventually going to have to slow down that pace, just because it's going to be hard for them to keep up. And so until we really know exactly what way it's going to go, it's kind of hard to answer that one. But
Okay.
But I mean, focusing more on the hobby, is it's all about that painting and stuff.
Oh yeah, hours and hours and hours and hours of painting.
So is the way to go for painting? Is it better for brush or airbrush? Like what's the better way to go?
It's whichever one you like and are more comfortable with.
Right.
At work, when I'm at work getting paid, probably half of my day is spent with an airbrush in hand, and I'll be damned if I can airbrush a model worth anything.
Huh.
Again, I can do it on costumes all day long, and sometimes I'll be doing nothing but airbrushing costumes for a week straight. Go home, try to do it on a model. Nope, nothing doing. Same airbrush, same compressor, because I've got redundancy and all of that.
Yeah.
And it's still, I'll still just pick up a brush and do it it that way.
A small divergence on that. I didn't actually realize until you just said that when you're painting costumes that it's actually with airbrush.
It can be airbrush, can be regular brush, can be finger painted on.
Really?
It just depends, but I do a lot of airbrushing for adding dirt to costumes.
Can you say here what you actually work on?
I'm not going to.
Okay.
We're gonna keep it to
it's
we're gonna keep it to paint little toy soldiers.
It's impressive. It's impressive. I'll just say that.
But yeah, no, we're when it's whatever you feel most comfortable with. I'm constantly trying new brushes, and I meant to bring some, and I forgot. I've been using. You mentioned flattening out your brushes.
Yeah,
I've been buying either filberts or cat's tongues, so that's like a flattened round already.
Mm-hmm.
So it already has that profile, so you can turn it on its side and use it for doing really fine line work, because it's like a knife edge. Or else it's a rounded flat, so you can use it to apply color a lot more quickly and actually fairly evenly for trying to do some wet blends.
That's cool.
Without having to, just use that basic watercolor round, which is what the the regular round brushes are. And I've just been going to Dick Blick's over in Roswell.
I have found and that out of all the different brushes that I have used, there is a guy, Monument Hobbies or Slow Fuse Gaming, Jason Craze. They have come out with a line of brushes. They have it's like the Det Cord and the Bomb Wick, and they all have names like that.
Okay, that's cool just to start with.
Right. Okay, their logo is a snail with, instead of a shell, it's the cartoon like Explodey Bomb, and he's like looking back at it like, oh shit. Like,
check out what I got, damn it.
Like their entire thing, and even he actually paints on his Twitch channel and has people watch him paint on Twitch and everything, and does paint shows. And good job, Joe. Way to go breaking stuff, jackass.
My bad.
Making a bunch of noise. Anyway, but he does really awesome stuff, and his brush, I love those brushes. Like I bought a couple sets of them just to try them out, and they are stupendous. And his initial set was good, and then he's improved them, and now they're a little bit different now, and that's what I use every single day. Whenever I paint is those guys for pretty much everything.
And he's a hobby painter, right?
Yeah. He paints miniatures pretty much exclusively. Like that's what they do, is they sell that stuff. His wife, I believe, makes a brush soap that is actually really good for cleaning out the goop. It unicorn goop brush soap or whatever they call it.
Dawn dish soap.
Yeah.
Dawn works.
Dawn takes grease out of the way. It works like a champ.
Well, I like it because I don't have to get up and go to the sink and do anything like that. I can just, in the cup of water, it comes a little metal can, run the brush around on it, wiggle it around on it, and then do that, and it'll just reshape your brush and recondition it and pull all that paint out of the whatever that metal piece is called. It has a funky
ferrule.
Ferrule, yeah. It'll pull all that out of there, and just, I mean, I've had a few brushes that were all like scaggly. They look like, the ends of my beard. And man, I ran it through some of that stuff, and it right back.
Fixed it right up?
Yep.
Nice.
And I've used some of the fancy, acrylic pink brush soap and things like that. That has not worked as well as that stuff. Whatever the hell is in it, it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this: once the first time that you use an acrylic brush cleaner and you don't rinse all of that acrylic brush cleaner off, because what does it do? It breaks down acrylic polymer bonds.
Right.
And the first time that you don't rinse that brush all the way, and you get that acrylic brush cleaner onto something that you've painted with acrylics, that will be the last time you use that.
I have not had that happen because I rinse things and make sure that I get all that crap off of there really good.
The first time that you don't rinse it all the way, that will be the last time you use it.
And I can speak to that. Nothing to do with the miniatures, but on paintings. And it sucks because basically it acts like a magic eraser on a painting.
I also can tell you that acrylic brush soap stuff does not taste good.
You're not supposed to suck on your brushes.
Don't eat it, dummy.
Man, the best way.
Don't eat your paint.
The best way I found to point them is that right on the tongue tip. Works great for me. Love it. And if you don't rinse it off, it'll let you know before you touch it to your model. Because you'll go, that tastes funky. And then you can, rinse it again.
Why is my tongue numb?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't eat through your tongue. Right? It's not like the Joker's brush soap. Come join my insane army of acrylic paint clowns.
By Axis.
Right. No, that's not what happens there. But yeah, that, and honestly, the biggest problem I have is like if I do washes and stuff, is not being patient enough until they're dry to go for another layer over top of the wash. And then all of a sudden I'm pushing semi-dry wash all over my model.
That's good times right there.
Oh God, this sucks.
That's good times right there.
That's never fun.
Is there any like happy accidents when you do things like that though? I mean, not that specifically, but other things where you like, okay.
Did Bob Ross fucking paint miniatures?
Not that I know of. I don't think miniatures existed when he was around. So
yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yeah. He painted through the 80s and 90s. Yeah.
Yeah.
Miniatures started in like the 60s and 70s. If you really want to get into it, one of the first known American miniature wargamers was, I believe, H.G. Wells.
Seriously.
Seriously, yeah.
But they would cast them out of iron, and they'd usually be several inches tall.
Oh, that's metal.
And he would use his entire backyard garden as a battleground.
That's badass.
And he would do recreations of the like Revolutionary War, and miniature wargaming supposedly goes further back than that.
Wow. It does go back to 18th century.
Seriously,
or further
seriously,
back,
yeah.
Wow,
yeah.
I did not know that.
Well, imagine you have a bunch of guys in military campaigns who are, officers and strategists and things like that.
Yeah.
And they get done, they go home and they're bored. So what do? Oh man, I remember pushing these guys around on the strategy table. Well, let's figure out how to do this at home.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So they've been playing war games of this nature for many days, many aeons.
But it's only been fairly recently that they stepped away from the stodgy ass historical miniature crap and then moved into like the cool stuff with Space Marines, space elves and space orcs,
plasma guns and power armor, bitches.
Yeah, all the science fantasy shit. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yup.
Beat.
So we'll have to get you painting so you can be frustrated by it.
Oh yeah. That's all I want is more frustration in my life.
But it'll be frustration at yourself, by yourself, for yourself, instead of from external sources.
Now that just got me thinking, especially Joe, coming from like you being the comic book artist. I don't know why I haven't thought about doing this before. But using something like some of the high intensity pigment markers, like Copics or something like that.
Yeah, I use Copics all the time.
And go with like a high tooth primer, like a Tamiya or something like that, that's got a little bit more of a grit, like a paper would.
Yeah.
And then instead of painting it, markering the fucking thing.
Oh yeah,
sealing the shit out of it.
Because I mean, the Copics, especially when you get into like the those high end markers. I mean, they are essentially as versatile and detail based as painting can be.
I'd like to see that, because I've seen people do like the cell shaded painting technique of like the Borderlands 2 style graphics.
Oh yeah,
right.
And there was a guy who he entered Armies on Parade this year, and he did an orc thing that was everything was white, grays, and blacks, as in a black and white,
like a manga
style.
That's
manga
cool.
style thing. And everything, like all the details were black outlined as though it had been drawn.
Yeah.
And he literally had this comic book looking diorama for these orcs that had, all of them were, they were obviously primed white, then shaded with a little bit of gray here in blocks where shading would be.
Yeah.
And then everything was outlined with black.
Oh, I've got to see that.
So
that's brilliant.
Yeah, it was a pretty cool idea. And like I said, I've seen people do paint jobs that are, throws to the Borderlands 2 cell shaded, Legend of Zelda Wind Waker style graphics.
Yeah,
where they're doing kind of like what you're talking about. It's just very, they'll prime white, but I mean they're painting it, I believe, with paint and brushes.
Well, just with the because Andrea's daughter is a hell of a cartoonist, and just
nice,
and that's the brand of markers that she gravitates towards.
Oh yeah,
and you can do she does some amazing shading and gradation with the markers. So, and that got just now got me thinking, like, I wonder if you do a model with marker.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
When I was at Art Institute, I had an entire course that was dedicated to markers, and like my marker game went up, up the ranks like crazy. And I didn't really appreciate them before that. Because I hadn't really seen that. And it wasn't as big as it is now. Like now it's like, full force mainstream for artists. But, you get somebody who's great with markers and they can make it look as detailed as paint, I mean, and in some ways, even more so.
Well, I mean, a lot of your tattoo flash is actually done with Copic markers.
Nice.
A lot of those guys are doing, that's a big big thing in my industry is get you a set of Copics.
Yeah.
It's either that or Prismacolor. It's one or the other.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, they're both great. Yeah.
And that's how a lot of those guys do the tattoo flashes. It's all,
See, now I want to marker a model.
Let's do it.
Seriously.
Do it. Let's see. Do it. Post it on the Facebook group. We'll see how it goes.
We go to Hobby Lobby tomorrow, guys.
I got a set of Prismacolors at home. So
yeah.
Nice.
So anyway.
That I do nothing with. So
we will be eagerly awaiting the Prismacolor model that Derek is going to do.
It's going to look badass.
And in the meantime, I think we're going to take our kind of mid-show break here to grab another beer and smoke a cigarette. And smoking's bad, kids. Don't do it. It's bad for you. Nicotine is evil.
Black lung.
Exactly. Go with cigars. They're better for you. Just don't be one of those little vape, little Nancy men.
He says with two vapors at the table.
Go get you a nice cigar. Have a retro vape.
All I gotta say is, I remember years ago when Derek was quitting smoking cigarettes, and he had his fancy little glow on the end fake cigarette that he used to puff away on. So suck it, Mr. Critical of the Vapors. You used to do it too. Anyway,
I learned it from watching you, Dad. I learned it from watching you.
Right? But anyway, so we're gonna take that quick little break. When we come back, we're gonna talk some about chapter approved and the things that stood out to me, which is not, my Talnar Supremacy suit or my knight went down 100 points because I don't really give two shits. The points are what the points are, and you're gonna make a list. You make a list. Play it how you want to play it. But there's a lot of cool stuff in that chapter approved. It far outshines the last one. So we're going to talk about that, and whenever we get back, and you guys have fun while we take our magic, mysterious, no time at all mid-show break. All right, ladies and gents, friends and neighbors, hermaphrodites and homunculi, we are ready to get back to it with talking about some good old Warhammer nonsense. I have in my hot little hands the chapter approved 2018. I went full nonsense and bought the collector's edition because I plan on running some Sisters of Battle and wanted all the nice little data slate cards that they give you with it because they're fancy. The collector's, normally I don't buy the collector's editions because usually the stuff they give you is kind of frivolous nonsense and then they up the price by a buttload. But this one, they actually gave you the data slates for the, or data sheets or whatever they want to call them, for the Sisters of Battle. So you have unit cards for everything. And they also gave you a packet of data slates that has all the various different missions that they have in the book, which are really cool. They also gave you a little command point and victory point counter and, cards for the stratagems and things like that, and cards for various other things in the narrative and open play stuff. One of the things that I have noticed in my chapter approved previews that I have talked to people is a lot of them get into the points differentials and things like that. Now, a lot of the podcasts I do listen to are kind of more structured for the match play tournament style player, and we're not. We're not those guys. We are not. The few tournaments I've gone to, I've done abysmal. Because I just don't care enough.
Although I do want to put together that Necron tournament army where it's 170 immortals.
Yeah.
Just because that would be horrible.
With Tesla?
It doesn't matter at that point. You get 150 or 170. It doesn't matter at that point.
Well, with the 170 with a Tesla, whenever you roll sixes, you're getting 3 hits. So that just makes it even more ugly.
Yeah, it's just awful no matter how you slice it because you just can't possibly ever kill that many Necrons.
Around how many models is that?
I'm talking like 170 models. It was like 150 or 170. Yeah, 2,000 points.
It was just immortal dudes.
Just infantry squads of 20 immortals. It was stupid. It's the sort of thing that there's just no way to play against. Like people, there's all this cool stuff that you can get in any of the armies right now, but I've always this has just been this way since Rogue Trader. The most unstoppable armies were the ones, if someone fielded an army of just Space Marines with bolters, 2,000 points of Space Marines with bolters, you just can't kill enough of them, and they will get the job done.
Nice. Yep. Because that's a lot of Marines.
Because people, and it's great. I mean, like you know, no matter what army you're playing, there's all the super cool stuff and all the fancy stuff and all the big, heavy, super killy stuff that take up a ton of points.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I'm going to put it on the board because, hey, I want to paint the big, cool tank thing. You know, I want to paint a Gorkanaut and a Morkanaut and put them in my Bad Moons. I mean, I already did, but for no other reason than just they're awesome looking. But as far as being competitive, maybe not.
Well, starting off, when you first get your grubby little hands on your chapter approved book, you will notice that in the very beginning, it starts with open play stuff, which is kind of cool. Open play is a little too abstract and nebulous for me. I like it in some extent, but it can get too imbalanced too easily, and too many people can just be like, well, I've got a blah, 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 blah that has a blah, 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 blah. I made up this blah, 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 blah thing, and you better let me play it. And sometimes that can't be fun. However, they do have rules to make your orc looted wagons, cart wagon, battle fortress, stuff like that, what constitutes those. And they even give you a fancy little conversion guide showing you ways to convert
what I thought was fantastic about that, because years ago when they did the make your own tank whatever the fuck you want, and you had a whole bunch of people that were taking a shoebox and then putting like 6 toilet paper tubes on it and calling it a super heavy tank with twin linked Gatling Earthshaker cannons, and I wish I was kidding, but I'd seen that more than once.
Whoa.
So they did a good job from the looks of it of giving you the freedom, giving the orc players the opportunity to convert the hell out of whatever they get their mitts on. You want to put a whole bunch of little clunky looking wheels and some orc guns on a looted devilfish. Cool, do it. Orcs would.
Yeah, right.
And
they definitely would.
Are they kind of like scavengers? They just once they beat somebody, they just
take
their shit.
And the way orc technology works, it's like if you read any of the stories about either the Imperial Army or the Adeptus Mechanicus trying to figure out how the orc stuff works, a lot of the orc stuff works through mass psychic connection. So the orcs have a psychic zeitgeist, and if enough of them believe that the thing is going to do what it's supposed to do,
nice.
The Adeptus Mechanicus will get like an orc shooter, and they'll take it apart and discover it has no internal working components. But it looks really cool as far as the orcs go. So like the orcs believe that it's going to work so strongly that it just works.
There's like sheer force of will or faith that
right.
Makes it nice.
Right.
Very cool.
Well, they also have rules in here.
But I was going to say they did a really good job with that, in that they gave the orc players the freedom to build whatever they want, but also some limitations.
Yeah, because you do need structure, especially in these games. If you're playing with your buddy, house rule the hell out of everything, throw the structure out the
No, don't do that, because they'll do some dumb shit.
And do all the dumb shit you want to do and that you guys can agree to. I don't care. Get in a fist fight over it. It'll be hilarious. Upload that to YouTube. Give me the link. I want to see you and your buddy beat the piss out of each other in your living room. It'd be hilarious to me. But aside from that, we have some rules here on custom characters. Basically, it gives you structure on how to create your own custom characters, additional abilities, how to do your keywords and things like that, which is really cool because it lets you put essentially yourself into the game. And I was listening to the Independent Characters podcast, which is one of my favorites. And they had a guy on there. It was actually, they did a thing where they had several other guys from from different podcasts on their show. And they were all talking about different things they like or wanted to see or wanted to do. And one of the other shows, Masters of the Forge, which is a very narrative show. The guy who runs that is Adam, and I can't pronounce his last name. It's like Fastolt or something like that. Anyway, he was mentioning that he really wishes that GW would bring back like the Space Marine Captain kit from years ago that had all kinds of weird upgrades and bits and things in there, so you could really customize your captain and make him look how you wanted him to. And you had a whole lot of variety and options to that, and that a lot more of the, the higher, lieutenants and captains and war bosses and, commander suits for the Tau and overlords for the Necrons. If they started doing that for a lot of these armies, it'd be really cool, because then people could kind of put themselves in their own army. And then even if they're using that, do it so that it can be done in match play or, narrative play or open play, however they want. But you've got a lot of bits to kind of customize out your character and say, oh, this is this is that. And that's what this does. It has a chart, where you roll your 2d6 and, you just, instead of adding them together, you just, 2 1s is an 11, all the way up to 2 6s as a 66. And it gives you, your different abilities. Most of these abilities you've seen on the data sheets for different, commander things and stuff like that. And it says, you can't do it more than once. You can't select an ability that has an effect that's the same as your character kind of already has. It's kind of common sense. Just don't do this because it'd be stupid. But it does have to be said, how to kind of work with the keywords thing so that you don't have a commander that has every keyword under the sun, because it's not going to work.
So is the custom characters, is that kind of a new rule set, or?
Yeah, because this is new rules that they've just put out. They have just released how to build these custom characters for yourself, which they are meant only for open play right now.
Sure. So it's not competitive, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, because open play is purely the least amount of structure, because you basically have 3 modes of play in 40K: open play, narrative play,
sure,
and match play.
Okay.
Match play has the largest amount of structure and various rules and things like that to it, and it's for tournament play to try and even and balance the game out as much as possible. Narrative,
because if you didn't, people would go absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I was at Dragon Con this past year, I walked by the gaming section, and just I kind of browsed for a little bit, did a little people watching at the RPG and the miniature gaming stuff, and actually I witnessed an actual meltdown. As I was walking about, I kind of stopped and waited, because it was just like, this dude just lost his complete shit. I didn't know what the details were, but like.
That happens more often than not.
It happens. It happens all the time, and you just have to look at that kind of stuff. Like, you're a grown fucking man, and you're about like throwing a hissy fit and crying
right
over your game of little green army men. Because what it all boils down to are these little. You could go to the dollar store and buy a little green army man and play with these rules and have a perfectly good time. But some people get way too wound up in it. And again, like that's like in my Gene Stealer cult list, why I've got 1,000,001 web guns in there, because it's hilarious when they actually injure something with a web gun.
And like, there's 80,000 people at Dragon Con.
And I can understand to some extent the emotional investment, because you've sat there, you've thought about this, you modeled it, you maybe converted models and kit bash things and spent all that time with that and spent time painting it, and you want to see it do good.
Yeah,
but the thing is, it's not necessarily going to, and you just kind of have to get
I don't see that at all, because I want to have a good story with it, where no matter like whether they actually win or lose or just come halfway through, it's that one game that you and I played that was just so phenomenal, where the first time I brought my Goliath rock grinders out there. Okay, so this cool truck with this big rock crushing drill bit front on it, and it slams into your like Skitarii Rangers or something like that, and did absolutely nothing. I said, "Oh, okay. So as far as like, these are an awesome model that are really bad at this game." But it was just that like the comical thing where and again trying to get story wise that okay, so I'm playing Gene Stealer cults, and they've got just basically stolen trucks with rock destroying stuff on the front of it, and it didn't work very well, because that's not what it's meant for. Okay,
and that's cool. It was built by Ford.
And they were damn Fords.
It was actually
if they were Hondas, you would have been fucked, son. But, it's like, if they had gone with the quality imports, but no, they went with some homegrown garbage.
Yeah, it was actually the 40K High Gothic Ford. It was Fordicus Maximus. But anyway, but the thing is, you also got to take into account that you and I, in our mindset, is probably under the 50% range of gamers out there, because the people do that like I said, and I can understand where they're coming from, because I can see it, that they put all this in there, they want this thing to be badass, and then when they're disappointed, they lose their shit and throw a temper tantrum, because sometimes the maturity level doesn't go with the artisan quality. But
then again, like I said, it's like if the kind of guys that got that worked up out of it just thought about how the story was, and how that would play into a narrative where, okay, so this Imperial Guard regiment is just like they've cobbled together, and like they've managed to make all the right requisitions, and they sent a Baneblade up to the front, and oh my god, this is going to be awesome. And then that Havoc squad with four meltaguns just pops up out of nowhere. And it just burns a hole through the side of it, and it's done. It's like, well, that's what Chaos Marines do, and adapt. Those are the kind of things that happen in all of the stories all the time.
Right.
So when something catastrophic happens to your giant stuff, and I'm pretty sure they write the rules with the intent that you have the giant cool stuff, is catastrophically bad things are going to happen to it.
Oh yeah,
and that plays more like into the narrative and making it more kind of authentic, not only to like real.
It makes it more of a role play.
Yeah,
right.
And less of just procedural. Like, okay, this guy's turn.
I shoot turn. This guy at this guy. I roll these dice,
and that's more appealing. I'll be honest, especially to somebody who's coming into this. It's like, okay, there's a story being played out. There's a narrative being played out. That's more enticing.
But anyway, so they also have, weapon improvement modifiers for your custom characters. So you can improve their weapons, psychic enhancements, things like that. So you can make a cool little dude that's your guy. Moving on, we get to the narrative play section, which this is my favorite. Because honestly, I think narrative play is conceptually my favorite game style. Because just like we've discussed, it's all about that. I want that story of the battlefield. I want to sit there and, while I'm playing this game, see how such and such Black Library author would write this story in a book, because that's what I'm seeing in my head, is how does this, Brother Artemis of the Death Watch unleashes his frag cannon, and the Death Guard just kind of look at him and go, huh. And then they walk up to him and slap him with a slimy tentacle, and he gets, the bubonic plague times 10 and dies. In his armor. That happens. And that's why I don't get, too bent out of shape. But moving on, they actually, one of the coolest things that I found in this book that I had not really heard much about is the battle honors system. So if you're running narrative play, it gives you a system for how to actually give experience to your units.
Nice.
It has a chart. Battle deed. If a unit took part in a battle, you get +1 experience. If a unit was controlling an objective marker, you get +2. So it goes through, and you can total out this experience, and then with the experience points, you can buy, or once they achieve certain ranks of the experience points, you start buying these battle honors. And the battle honors are things that can be added, like rank 1 warrior battle honor, and they have warriors and monsters and vehicles. They have battle honors for everything that you're going to do. And so, you get to add the ability that he can reroll hit rolls of 1 in the shooting phase.
And this sort of thing would be great. And yeah, it's really awesome, because they're taking all the experience point stuff that that they did in Necrogorkheim and all the other squad based games, and then putting it onto 40K. And like the upcoming, let's try it again with the Escalation League, because that was I love doing that, and it's so much fun. And
I loved running it.
And Escalation League.
So that's the one where we every month. So we start off with just with a very limited number of points that So this last one we did, everybody started with a
start collecting
box. Okay, so it was like an $85 box, and they were all around the same power level. I want to say it was like 25 or 30 power level.
Yeah, most of them were 25 to 30, but I think I said, okay, we're going to limit it to 25.
Okay, right. So we're all starting at the same. So we're doing match play numbers, but I think that it would be even more fun. Mm-hmm. So what we were doing is we had was it 2 months to get the first thing built and painted.
Right.
2 months, and it was like, because most of them was like 25 to 30 models depending on the set.
Some less.
Some were less, some were more.
So plenty of time to get it done.
So plenty of time to get it done. And then every month after that we'd meet, and you'd bring an extra, I think it was 15 power level.
15 power level every month.
So which is the equivalent of like a squad or two. So you're doing about half of what you were doing with the start collecting set. Yeah. Okay. So the idea was to, over the course of, it was 6 months.
Yeah, it was about 6 months, 7 months.
That you'd go from having just a starting out army. Like, okay, you have barely enough to put on the field and play a proper game of 40K.
Yeah.
To you have almost a tournament sized 2,000 point army.
Oh wow, that's cool.
And you do it just in small increments. And and it was what and I thought it was a great idea. That what we're trying to do was get people that had this idea in their head that they couldn't get their stuff painted. And actually have the time to paint it. And then me and Eric painted. I think I painted 3 armies in that time, and Eric painted 2, or he painted two and a half.
Well, in the 2 months prior to starting, I painted 4 25 power level armies. So in 2 months, I essentially painted 100 power level worth of dudes.
Right.
And
overachiever.
Right. And then the next, when we went up 15 power level, I had 2 or 3 armies prepared. I dropped 1. And then the next month, I dropped another one. And so basically, I ended up dropping everything away till by the end, I was only doing my Adeptus Mechanicus.
And that turned out to be a really nasty army to play against, too, which was awesome.
Yeah, they turned out way better than I thought.
It looked great. But yeah, so it gave everybody an incentive to, that they were going to be going up against people that were producing about the same amount of stuff.
Sure.
So there was a little bit of a keeping up with the Joneses thing, but it's not, it wouldn't be like, if I pulled out my Snakebites army, which is, I think, it's probably 4,000 or 5,000 points worth of orcs.
Wow.
And it's all painted, really well. I tend to spend a lot of time doing it, but if I pull that out and said, okay, this is what you're going to be playing against, and I'd really like you to paint your stuff as well, you'd look at it and say, well, fuck you, no, there's no way, I can't paint all of that shit.
I'm not a Derek.
Right?
Fuck you.
But if it's hey, you've got like 20 models to paint, I've got 20 models to paint.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something that's completely within. You can look at it and say, all right, that's within reason. I can see painting and all that.
And furthermore, there was no actual what we call a painting rubric.
Yeah,
because in like tournament stuff, they actually have is everything base coated? Is there at least 3 separate colors on this? Is everything based? And then you get additional points if you've added, shading washes and layering to it. And the more you paint and whatnot, and the better it is painted based on this kind of grading scale.
Yeah,
the more points you get. Well, I didn't have to do a painting rubric because I didn't want the guys who have never played, have never painted, who weren't doing anything, and were just kind of like, oh, yeah, I want to play 40K. I want to learn this game. Okay, cool. Here's how you're going to do it. And those coming in, I didn't want them to stress about how well painted their miniatures were.
Yeah.
I just wanted them to paint some dudes.
Yeah.
And get into the hobby aspect beyond just the playing the game. And
yeah, it's less pressure that way.
And honestly, Cody was in my minds the newbie star of that entire event, because he sat down, and when you take into effect the fact that he was apprenticing at my shop and he was working at a factory, So he was working a good
two full-time jobs.
So at least like in the 80 to 90 or 100 hour.
Well, he was probably
range.
closer to the 80-ish range because
Yeah,
I know he was 40 at the other, and he wasn't at the shop every single day.
Yeah.
But he was at the shop a lot to start learning everything. And he sat down and he got some Space Wolves, and he continually bought more models and upgraded his force, and he continually put paint on them.
Yeah.
You know, his paint jobs are not going to win any awards
yet,
but not yet. But so help me God, and he's still painting on them. Like he's still good. He's been going back and cleaning things up and redoing things as he's learned more and still doing it. And so, to me, the fact that I got him into this hobby, I gave him this thing, and he took it and he's run with it.
And crack dealer, you
right? I know, right? and here he is, like
first taste is free.
Right
Here, buy some Space Wolves, little boy.
but the fact that he is still sitting down and he's still painting some of his dudes and messing with them, and you've seen his Space Wolves; they don't look bad.
No, they look good.
Yeah,
Better
they
than
are
I can
not.
do, for
They are
sure.
not melted crayon, first time painter, don't know how to thin paints kind of crap.
Definitely not.
But he did his work on his own time, the little bit of free time he had, and he did it. Every model he put on that table had paint on it.
Nice.
And all the way up to when I played him at the 100 power level game, because I played him and then I played Derek, and all the way up to that, every single thing he put on that table had base colors on it, and all of it had 3 colors, and he'd based them, and he'd done his job. He'd done what he needed to do, and now he's going back and he's going over his stuff and learning how to do the shading and learning how to do layering and still working with it and messing with them and things like that. And that's the most impressive thing, is that he's gained a passion and an ambition for the hobby,
That's cool.
which makes me really happy when I see someone do that.
Hashtag props for Cody.
Yeah, and in my mind, the event that I ran, I succeeded because I got at least one more person into the hobby.
Nice.
And I got more than that because, like Adam still does things. I got Jeremy into it, but I got him into it after we started the Escalation League, so he didn't join in. But I mean, he sat down and he's painted his Imperial Guard, and for having never painted a model before, his Imperial Guard is incredibly clean.
Nice.
and decent looking, and so he's done a great job, as a newbie. And but anyway, moving on.
Yeah, but getting back to what is in the very cool new
Chapter
approved, that sort of experience tree just lends itself perfectly to something like that, where
Yeah,
because we're all starting off. Okay, so we're going to start off with like a maximum power level 7 infantry squad, which that would be, it would normally you wouldn't care, but if that's the first one you start with, and it's been in every game, and it's racked up, by the time the 5th month is rolled around, they've racked up a whole pile of experience. Yeah, now you got a kick-ass veteran squad that's coming in at 7 power level. So
and it gives you a reason, like if for those who are motivated and get their new units done in time, it gives them a reason to go back and look at that unit that has been in every game, not been wiped out, has killed other units, held objectives, and built this experience up, and paint veteran markings on them. And
exactly,
and gives them a reason to
put
teach.
some dirt and grime and scars and wounds and
do some weathering on them and cool things like that. So I plan on running this Battle Honors in a more narrative setting, because we were using the open play deck for our games, which was meant to be kind of simplify some of the gameplay and simplify some of the mission structure. But now that they have enough narrative play missions between the rulebook and chapter approved and the Vigilus Defiant campaign book has some narrative stuff in it. Now that there's enough source material for me to grab from, I plan on having a more narrative aspect to it. And like I said, talking to Paul at Vendetta, we're planning on doing a thing where, we do one event with play the games, buy your dudes, paint them, put them together. We're going to play that first game. And probably, a few weeks before we play the first game, we're probably going to get together up there and sit down, and we'll all, here's some painting stuff. If you need tips, hints, tricks, those of us who are more experienced painters will be there to help you paint.
Because it's important to have someone who's standing over your shoulder telling you that you suck.
Yes. Motivation.
Like a drill sergeant. You suck, boy.
I'm actually going to
Paint that model.
I'm actually going to give Derek my cordless Dremel, and he will he will use the weird little scrapey bits that it comes with on your temple should you not paint correctly. Sound like a plan?
That sounds like a great plan. So how do you think that you got this wrong? Oh, it's that drill going into the side of your skull. That's how you know.
What's that burning feeling, Ma?
I guess Bob's out. We lobotomized him. Oops. But
turns out you can only lobotomize someone 7 times in one day before they just fall out. Right? Who knew?
So much. But after the battle honors setup that they have, they go into Cities of Death, which is the urban campaign stuff, which this looks really neat. They have specific warlord traits. They have 6 new missions that are all Cities of Death oriented, very urban combat.
And I skipped over that section because there was not enough pictures.
Right. And, they have several different neat things. Now, this brings us into one of the other things. They do have, specific Cities of Death stratagems, which I don't really care that much about. I just don't care that much about stratagems. I think they're cool for little bonuses here and there, but I'm kind of with Derek on that. It brings in the card players and the gotcha tactics and the, shit like that. Like, let's build a list just so we can have as many command points so we can just sit there and play all these cards while we're playing this game that's not supposed to be a card game. And do all these, oh, but you thought you were going to do that. Ha-ha! My unit does this. And there is a use for them in the game, but I really don't like the fact that a lot of the match play and tournament stuff since 8th edition has come out has moved more towards this very stratagem-heavy play. And as they have changed things and tweaked things and done various different things, and like when they released the big fact, several stratagems went up in CP cost, and they did several things where they removed the CP battery, which was a strategy tournament players were using, where you could take a couple relics and certain detachments of certain specific Imperial armies along with other stuff, and you could effectively have almost an infinite amount of these command points to just sit there and I'm going to use 3 command points to power up my knight. I'm going to use another command point to make sure he always hits. I'm going to use another command point to do this, and now I'm going to shoot at everything I can shoot on the board, and then when you finally kill my knight, I'm going to use more CP to get him back from the dead, and I'm going to use more CP to bring him back to full profile, and then I'm going to shoot more shit, and then you're going to have to kill him again.
That just seems like it's so bogged down in the rule set. Like, it just doesn't make it fun.
And as he was talking, I was just starting to fade off because that's just too much rules, and if it's not modeled onto the model, it ain't there.
Right? Yeah,
right.
That makes sense.
And I mean, like, I like using them. Like, I mean, when we played our Derek and I played our game with the AdMech versus the Gene Stealers cult, I had a Knight Castellan. I think I had 9 CPs in that army. And I was able to use enough CPs to keep that Knight Castellan alive till towards the end of the game. He did kill it, but it was alive towards the end of the game.
Well, that's what 30 Gene Stealers will do to it. Anything.
And it actually wasted a whole ton of them Gene Stealers. I think it was actually your Lehman Russes that finally killed it, because Gene Stealers killed the Warlord Titan, the Solar Mortis, in that game.
No, the Gene Stealers tore up that Castellan really badly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know they did some damage to it, but I didn't think they killed it all the way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Eric told me about that one, how you climbed up the back of it and started destroying the innards of the.
It was horrible. It just got covered up in fire ants is what it was when it really comes down to it.
Yeah, I mean that's there's something to be said for just a huge mass of characters just coming in and just taking something down.
Right. But I mean, I used a very minimal amount of stratagems. I did not I think I had the Monitor Malevolus relic for the Adeptus Mechanicus. So, but I think I only got 1 command point back that entire game, and it let me do some neat things, and it let me have fun with it without being overburdening and over ridiculous and, constantly rolling dice every time I or my opponent uses a command point and all this other crap. And it was still a lot of fun, and it didn't take away from the enjoyment of the game for me or Derek, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
And but of course, going into more of the Cities of Death, they even have urban battle zone stuff where it actually has specific like narrative play tweaks. Like this one, Infested City. Before the battle, the players jointly must gather at least 4 infestation units. These can be any units that have a power rating of 10 or less, but we recommend that players select units that do not share faction keywords with any units from their own armies. So you have these infestation units that are running around tearing shit up while you're trying to fight a battle. And they're talking about using, beast units, swarm units, gene stealer units, lictors, spore mines, poxwalkers, that kind of stuff to just, roam around.
So that's almost
great. We just invaded planet zombie apocalypse.
Well, I was going to say that kind of reminds me of like in video games, almost like a PvE/PvP like mode.
Right. And that's where they're going with that stuff. And that's why that stuff above the rules changes, even though I love the Sisters of Battle and they put the mini codex in here for, the beta codex as they call it. That was what I thought was going to be the big interest to me, but those battle zones and that narrative play stuff that they've added creates such a new dimension towards telling a narrative with your game that I am just stoked about that.
Yeah, and I mean, I can say that kind of mechanic is lately. I mean, I'm more of a video gamer, and so that mechanic has started to crop up more in video gaming as well. Destiny 2 being like a good example of that. The Gambit mode is a PvP based mode where you're playing like your team versus another team, but there is a PvE element as well that you have to accomplish in order to even win the battle. But you're also dealing with other players. So to see that that persistent between not only wargaming, miniature wargaming, as well as video gaming, you can tell that that's a new kind of a new iteration of gaming that's starting to crop up. That's kind of neat.
It's adding new layers. And then another thing I'm really stoked about is they give some new dimensions with Battlefield terrain. Different things, twisted woodlands and stuff like that. It defines it a little better, and it goes into some of their specific terrain, like the galvanic servo haulers and things like that, like what exactly they do on a battlefield and why you should buy them.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And like we were talking last time, a lot of this stuff is going back to the Rogue Trader days when it really was more of a miniature role playing game. And Rogue Trader, you needed a DM to do it. So you had 2 players fighting each other with a game master, and then you had random fucking aliens walking around. The terrain mattered because there was carnivorous plants and quicksand and all kinds of crazy shit like that.
Your Kadishan jungle fighters may be fighting off some orcs in
the jungle. They were fighting the jungle.
And then
cool.
all of a sudden,
anybody else that came along too, but mostly they were fighting jungle.
All of a sudden, this Kadishan devil pops up behind your infantry unit, and now you got to decide: should I deal with the orcs we've been shooting at, or this giant scorpion death world beast that's going to rip the heads off all my guys before these orcs get a chance to? What are you going to do? And it changes that dynamic.
So all of that, all the Cities of Death stuff and all the terrain modifications, and then it just goes back to making it more of a narrative.
Yeah, and it's an immersion factor. I mean, because real battle is like that. I mean, that's what real war and battle is like. So
yeah,
that's cool.
And like this one specific rule, they have added several different things for the different terrain rules, like a lot of the Mechanicus type terrain. Thermic plasma conduits, the hemotrope reactors, thermic plasma regulators. It is called hazardous cover. And what this does is you roll a d6 each time you make a saving throw of 7+. So basically, if you made your save, and if you have a bonus because you're in cover, and you roll a 6, you've now made a 7+ for a model within 3 inches of any of the terrain features that have hazardous cover, basically.
That just means you're hiding behind the red barrel in Doom.
And basically, on that D6 roll, that additional D6 roll, on a 1, your unit suffers a mortal wound. So it's literally like, okay, you're taking shooting, you saved, you ended up getting out of the way, but the dude's shots blasted open a thermic, a plasma cover, or blew a part of a protective sheathing on this reactor, or the thermic plasma regulators, and you get hot plasma or electric arcing firing off and hitting your guy.
A bunch of rads, turns them all into Jellerpox walkers.
Right, and he's all toast now. And that adds so much more. That includes with, some of the Death World forest type stuff. Some of those things, Eldritch Ruins, these old ancient Eldar ruins, boost your psychers in battle. Things like that now, that if you're near it, it can do good stuff or bad stuff. Venom, barbed venom gorse. You roll a d6 each time a model moves within 3 inches of any barbed venom gorse terrain piece whilst advancing or charging. On a roll of 1 or 2, that model's unit suffers 1 wound. So you can picture this unit charging into close combat, and one of the guys is a little too off the beaten path, and all of a sudden,
just tangled up in some vines that start eating
some
him.
bitch.
I gotta say on the side note, that little Terminator head on the tripod over there in the upper right hand corner.
Servo skull.
Oh, that's cool as shit.
Those float around all over the Imperium doing things.
That looks like that. It's just very imposing. So,
but and then you get into the Sisters of Battle Codex, which is really cool. And there's like I said, there are numerous podcasts that go over the reviews of that. You got some more Renegade Knight rules, and one of the things that the Warhammer community at large is kind of poo-pooing is the inclusion of the 8 for the Tau, which is Farsight Enclaves. And this is a very narrative, inclusion, because Farsight said, screw the Ethereals, I'm going to go do whatever I want. And him and his, 7 best commanders all form a unit called the 8. And you can now put it into your, match play, narrative play, tournament play, whatever you want. And these guys all have their own specific rules and ways to include them in your army, and ways to model them and do things like that. And it talks about how you do it and what all they are. And it's cost a hunk of points to do it. You deploy them all as one thing. So you deploy 8 units as one, basically. And, they have a bunch of drones with them too. And it ends up being really cool. So I'm actually making a Farsight list that is with the 8 because I want to run it. I don't care that it's not competitive. I don't give 2 shits.
No, you just want to stick it out there because you get to do it.
Yeah, and it's freaking Farsight, man.
It's sort of like wanting to put together any kind of Imperial force just so I can use that damn navigator that came with the Blackstone Fortress. Why? Because
why not?
There's never been a model for it or a stat line for it ever.
Huh.
Yeah, it was always in the stories.
Really?
Yeah, that's never had a navigator in anything.
Yeah, but like between Blackstone Fortress and the Rogue Trader Kill Team box set, like there's so many of these things that were just in the story, but were never modeled. They had never had models for them. They never had stat lines for them. It was like, oh, that sounds like really cool. I'd like to have that cool model because it's just I want to have like one of everything from the story.
So it's almost like the people that were working on like Kill Team and Blackstone Fortress were like really passionate about.
Oh yeah,
like, those
clearly,
models. And
clearly.
Like, let's find a way to like sneak them in.
Right. And I mean, I'm gonna put the Munistorm Priest from Blackstone Fortress and the Purifier dude with the big old Inferno flamethrower.
Oh, they go straight into that sisters list.
Yeah, he picked them right out. He was like, yeah, I'm gonna sit that.
Yeah, I mean they're going in there because they actually, like, with the codex in here, Munistorm Priest actually give bonuses to the units around them in the Sisters of Battle beta codex, and a lot. And they can use the different acts of faith of things. And so he'll give those bonuses because he's got the right keywords. And then the Purifier dude, why not? He's a dude with a gigantic fucking flamethrower.
Well, as long as they can have that, because that old Sisters of Battle army that I had from way back when, I don't want to say it was like 3rd edition, but it had 2,000 point list, had 45 flamethrowers in it.
Crap.
Which, I mean, in 40K, flamethrowers are they get mixed reviews because it's all about you just got to get them close enough and then they'll do work.
But when the whole army was in rhinos and immolators, and they would just charge up, jump out, just
torch.
Yeah, just light everything on fire.
I mean, in Kill Team, they're kind of hit or miss. In Kill Team, I mean, they get a decent range if you're close, but I mean, if you're not hitting those rolls, I mean, you're just pretty much
I mean, the main problem with it is that flamethrowers don't have
templates anymore.
Well, templates,
Sad.
but I mean, you're still rolling the multi hits, and it automatically hits. So and in Kill Team, you can disperse those hits between models that are within 2 inches of the model you're initially targeting. But the problem I found with them in Kill Team is that the biggest thing in Kill Team is AP and making that armor save.
Absolutely.
And most of the flamethrowers do not have AP. Not all, but most. And so when you're not adjusting your opponent's save at all, you're auto hitting. And the strength, depending on what you're using a flamethrower on, they're not that great against power armor. But you flamethrower Imperial Guard, they're toast.
Yeah, Imperial Guard, they went off. I mean, they just went down like a sack of hammers. But when you were going up against the Adeptus Astartes,
right.
I mean, like it was just like nothing.
My kill team game with playing Thousand Suns against Jeremy's Astra Militarum, the Warp Flame pistol, I ended up rolling good, got like 6 shots. I ended up laying waste to 5 of his models.
Well, I mean, he hasn't. I mean, he had this massive Kill Team army. For Kill Team, he had a massive army. He had at least there had to have been like 18 to 20 units.
No, not quite that much. Now, he did tell me when I saw him last that he has done a new Kill Team list with his Astra Militarum that has, I believe, 19 active models on the.
I mean, it was
the Kill Team.
It was pretty.
But
it was imposing.
I think he had 11 or 12 in his army.
Yeah, it was massive. But every one of them, as soon as they got hit, they went down. I mean, it didn't matter what it was. So.
Yeah, I mean, we did have the one game where like everybody shot at his one guardsman hanging on a ledge,
and because they were everywhere,
and the guy was just kind of standing there like dancing around, like "ha ha, screw you," doing the Rocky Bullwinkle horns.
Exactly. Well, he also had most of his Kill Team like up in the range for everybody to see. Like, hey, I've got no cover.
Well, I mean, this guy had no cover. He was not obscured. He was hanging on the ledge, and like me and Cody were just sitting there like. Pop shot everything we had at this guy, and
there's always that one guy.
He would not die, man. He made every single save, everything, and then finally he didn't, and we were just like, I guess it was all the bullets that were just holding him up, like it was just ridiculous because of how it went and how it worked. But I mean, and that's the fun thing I have with Kill Team is we end up creating that narrative, even if it's jokingly. Just by playing that game.
Yeah, like the psychic bomb that I did with the Thousand Suns that took out like half of both of our armies.
but we're all laughing and making up stories of how it was that this die roll made this happen and things like that. And that's what the spirit of it is, and that's what I think makes the game so much fun. And when a lot of places talk about, playing a game with somebody, it's a social contract. It's a social thing that you do.
Sure.
It is. But what makes it so much easier to have that social interaction with your friend on a different level than you normally would, just, going out and drinking beer or whatever, or, sitting around and whatever, is that you're sitting here making up this story while you're rolling these dice and pushing these toy soldiers around. And that's the appeal of the games, and that's why people get into them.
Yeah.
And makes it so much fun. And then, the fact you can do stupid things like, hey, I'm going to throw a bunch of web guns in this army. Because it's funny.
I've heard all about the web guns. Derek loved them web guns.
Because it's dumber than hell.
Yeah.
It's basically like a Spider-Man gun, right?
Yeah, that is pretty much exactly like that. It was a useless gun in Rogue Trader, and they brought it back for the Gene Stealer cult. And I thought, that's awesome. this horrible weapon.
All right. Bold prediction right now.
Yeah.
In the new Gene Stealer cult's codex,
they'll get rid of it.
Just because Games Workshop wants to piss Derek off, they're going to make the web gun good.
Like, screw you. You worked for us. Now it's going to be bad.
Bring the web gun back.
Bring the web gun. Make it amazing.
So,
that and who was I playing that I wounded one of his Terminators with an auto pistol? I mean, that's just always just.
Was it Cody?
I don't remember who I was playing. I think I was playing Nick. I think I wounded one of his Death Shroud Terminators with a damn auto pistol.
Poor Nick.
So that would be like the equivalent of just like shooting a Glock at a Terminator.
Yeah, and you just get that one shot right through the eyelids.
Yeah,
Yep.
right,
Son
exactly.
of a bitch. Got a bullet in me.
So I have a kind of a on-topic / off-topic question. Obviously
We don't do those.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Never mind.
Shut
Sorry,
your
guys. Yeah.
No, what is it?
So within the realm of 40K, but also as I've said before, kind of being more of an RPGer. I've heard a lot about this, the new revision of the Warhammer RPG. Is there any news? Is there any any details? Like, do we have an idea when it might be coming out?
The only thing I have seen recently is that someone posted that they got their pre-ordered collector's edition of the Wrath and Glory RPG the other day.
Really?
Okay. On one of the Facebook groups. So it is coming.
Okay.
It's coming.
It's coming. That works. That's something.
When I did play Magic the Gathering, one of my favorite supplement to play, shut up, was the unglued supplement, because everybody hated those cards because they were ridiculous and stupid. And I would always put the Infernal Spawn of Evil into my deck.
I've heard about this card before.
Okay, this card, the picture cover art was a squirrel in a scarf with little booties on, sipping hot chocolate.
Yep.
And the creature stats were decent.
Damn, that would actually make me interested in playing that game.
Right?
Oh, dude, this was the best card I ever had.
Yes.
But the cool thing you could do with this card is you just left it in your hand. You didn't actually play it on the table. Because every turn, you could show it to your opponent and just go, "It's coming!" And they would lose one life. And then put it back in your hand. And that was all you did with that card.
It's just a threat.
Yeah. And it was just amazing. It was one of the best cards
that's
they
tip
ever
top
made.
right there.
Oh, yeah. It was like, really, but of course, they don't really do stuff like that anymore. And if you actually tried to play anybody who plays Magic now with that stuff, they would probably just get mad and pee themselves and leave the table or something.
If you went to Kapow Comics and coming and did that, I'm pretty sure one of the gaming tables would get flipped. I mean, that's probably.
I'd just be laughing the whole time. While he flipped the table over, I'd just pick my deck up as he's flipping it and just laugh and laugh and laugh. And I'd just be like, "You dumbass, you flipped the table over a game of stupid kids' cards. Shut up."
They're like, "No, it's not kids' cards. That's Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh!"
But I mean, regardless, gaming is always fun, and it's fun for those reasons. And those are the things that I've always found enjoyable. Is just literally just the silly shit the game companies come up with. And since we're getting close to closing out the show, I will throw a couple little interesting honorable mentions for the kinder, gentler face of Games Workshop. Many months ago, maybe a year ago, there was a young lad who was a gigantic Space Wolves and Space Marines fan who happened to be hospitalized during his battle with cancer. And a lot of the various people in the Warhammer community showing the fact that there are a lot of really amazing people in this community. I mean, don't get we tend to talk about the people who aren't as cool as we are. And but there's
we're cool,
I guess.
I don't know
mark?
What the hell is
maybe
cool?
not. But
I'm a dork.
I don't know a better way to phrase it, but there are a lot of people, especially when you look at the demographics of an entire nation of hobbyists.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people in this that are very community minded and really care about their community. So they actually were sending this young lad a whole lot of painted models and different stuff like that while he was in the hospital to help cheer him up and all that, because he really loved the Space Wolves and he couldn't paint anything, and he was very, very sick. He ended up losing his battle and passed away. And in the Vigilus Defiant campaign book, Games Workshop named a Space Wolves character in the Vigilus campaign after him.
That's cool.
See,
as
that's all right.
absolute
Yeah,
fuck, man.
that
is
really
absolutely
shows
badass.
they really care.
Wow.
That, and there is also anybody who is interested in helping out. If you go and find the Independent Characters Facebook community site, or go to the Warhammer community page and look up the article on it, because it has the links also. There are a whole lot of Warhammer gamers out in California that had their homes destroyed by the big campfire forest fire that took a lot of lives, destroyed a lot of property.
Absolutely.
And while a lot of them are being taken care of with relief aid on the necessities, a lot of those guys lost models and armies and all kinds of things, and a lot of that stuff is not covered under their insurance.
Yeah, for sure.
So Carl of the Independent Characters has started up a basically a donation drive of send these guys, your old models or whatever, send us this stuff, and we'll make sure it gets to gamers' hands that are going to enjoy and appreciate it, who have lost everything.
That's amazing. That's freaking cool as hell.
He is posting updates on that community page and showing, people are sending stuff in. I put together 2 big
boxes.
Yeah. I was just like, all right. And I looked at Rebecca. I was like, so I have a reason to get rid of a ton of shit. and she's like, really? I'm happy about this. And I'm like, yeah. I said, this is going on, and I'm gonna donate. I donated an entire Age of Sigmar army, because I just don't play Age of Sigmar.
Yeah.
I'd like to, but I don't have anyone who plays it, who plays regularly. And I had 3 armies. So I'm like, here you go. Because it's all about that community. It's all about helping each other out. It's all about seeing somebody, like, you see somebody who's being a douchebag at a store, try to teach them a way not to be a douchebag. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You see somebody who's lost some models or, things like that, help them out. If you got the extra to spare, do it.
Absolutely.
I've done that numerous times for people I've gotten into the game. I've said, cool, here's a bunch of dudes. I've got plenty. I know Derek did that for me back in the day. And that's one of the reasons why I was like, here's a Necron army. And then he's like, well, cool. Thanks for all this stuff. Here's some Sisters of Battle, because I know you like them.
That's why I have a kill team, because Eric was generous enough to give me some Adeptus Astartes. So
that was the free crack.
Yeah. Get you started.
He did not do you a favor.
You're a dealer. Damn you, Eric. Damn you.
But and that is the positive aspect that fills me with pride and joy at, being able to go look at people and go, yeah, man, I'm a 41-year-old man who plays with toy soldiers, and I love my Warhammer, because at the end of the day, no matter who flipped a table, somebody's getting helped. And that's what really matters.
It's fucking awesome, man. That is incredible to hear.
So, I strongly urge everyone to look that stuff up. Donate if you can. I know he's only accepting donations. It's maybe even too late, but still look into it. See if you can do it, because you should. If you can't, then
what's the address of this again?
It is you can find it through the Independent Characters Facebook community page. So it is the Independent Characters group. You could find it on their actual website, which I guess if you just Google search Independent Characters, it will give you their actual website. You can also find it on the Warhammer community page, because the actual Games Workshop noticed what he was doing in his efforts, and they put out an article saying, hey, this guy's doing this stuff, and those are the 3 different ways you can easily find those links. I'm going to try and link at least the probably their website and the Warhammer community thing on the show notes also. So people who go to actually go to the page through Podbean and stuff like that can actually find it.
And with a very, very quick search on Facebook, I was able to do the Independent Characters, and it pulled it right up. So it took me literally 1 second to pull it up. So.
Yep. So do that. And then while you're doing that also, go to the Beerhammer Associates Facebook group. Join it, because we post things all the time. Derek actually just recently posted a picture of Oracy era, Mark Mark Horsey era armor. I can't ever remember what the Mark numbers are.
Oh, it was all mixed up. It was some gorgeous Night Lords I just painted up.
Yeah, and they are awesome models. And I remember the first time you showed me one of the Night Lords models that you painted up a while back, and I was like, man, that's amazing. The lightning arcing over the armor and stuff.
And not to give Derek too much of a huge ego, because he's already like it's pretty awesome at what he does.
The ego's already there.
I'm actually surprised that Joe and myself and this recording equipment can fit in the room with Derek.
Right, it's pretty huge.
Gigantic.
Like, his ego is actually like stuffing us out. But seriously, like I've been that guy that has a lot of friends into 40K for most of my adult life. Eric being one of those, and a lot of other friends like David Sheely and Jason Baker. And I can appreciate the art from the aesthetic perspective. Derek takes it to another level. A lot of it because of his talent and his career. But man, seriously, if you see his stuff, you guys will be seriously amazed, because it's like the detail is like I can't even explain it. You have to see it yourself. It's pretty impressive. So,
I just want to say that
I'm not sucking his dick, by the way.
I was about to say, I don't know if our listeners would hear what you said because Derek's dick was in your mouth.
Yeah.
Gagging and choking. I will say, however, that it was funny that he used recasts of, that he made from his Golden Demon Awards as Poxwalkers.
Oh, yes. He's also a Golden Demon Award winner.
That was a long time ago.
Oh, whatever. It doesn't matter. Hey, Bruce Jenner is still an Olympian.
It's Caitlyn Jenner.
Whatever. You knew what I meant.
But Bruce is no longer there.
Okay, Caitlyn Jenner is still an Olympian.
But, regardless, check it out. The Beer Hammer Associates Facebook page. Go and join the group. I'd like to see more discussion and more stuff going on there. And it's something, too, where you guys can post, and I want to see y'all interact. Tell me how the show is, because I'd like to hear, preferably constructive criticisms, because, if you just tell me I suck, I'm probably going to laugh at you. But, constructive criticisms on things we could do, things you'd like to hear about. If y'all send me questions about stuff, I'll answer them on air. You guys can hear your name called out, too.
He might even answer them correctly.
I
awesome.
won't do that.
You should start doing a Q&A session. That would be
I'm totally down for it. I think it'd be great.
Hey, you should take callers. Like
it was funny. When I've been listening to this at work, there have been times when I've picked up the phone to call him, and we're like, okay, this isn't live. Right? Never mind.
Yeah, you do like Howard Stern. You need a really good strong female personality on the back end. So.
I do have that normally.
At the podcast.
She unfortunately could not make it tonight.
I understand.
But Andrea is a very good, strong female personality that I really enjoy having on the show, because one of the things that not a lot of people see is, especially in our gaming group, is a lot of women into it. And, having her and Rebecca on the last podcast was great.
Oh, yeah. It was fun.
It really gave another, she really gives another perspective. And there are several, little comments and things she said and done and whatnot that have made me just kind of see things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Because it's, from that perspective of not only somebody new getting into it, but also, a woman getting into it and saying what she likes and what she doesn't like.
Yeah.
And it lets, all of us see it from a different way. And there needs to be more women gamers,
and also seeing it from, like you said, as a new player, as one that is really brand new. Because like Joe, you came from a role playing background. Andrea comes from a cosplay background, so not a gamer at all.
No, totally different.
So like maybe Cards Against Humanity or something like that, but not a miniature game, and not a strategy game. Okay, yeah, she's a Game of Thrones fan, but she'd never played anything like Song of Fire and Ice before.
Yeah.
She'd never painted a model before, and the first one she does is a demonette, which is, honest to God, it's a pain in the ass model to build and paint, because it's a really small and fiddly. But
she did an amazing job.
She banged that thing out.
Really?
She did a great job of that.
Wow.
It's posted on the actual Beer Hammer Associates Facebook page.
Yeah, look at it.
Yeah, go take a look
Yeah.
at it and just think first thing she's ever painted in her life.
And don't let it discourage you because you probably won't do that well.
Yeah. Suck a cock.
But,
and it didn't take her like 12 days to do it either. It was like she
Really?
painted it in like I got 2-3 hours is all it took
Yeah.
for.
And I mean, I may be a little remiss in saying this, but I think that this community, as well as all geek communities. I mean, most geek communities are kind of male driven, so having that infusion of that perspective and that new blood is actually a positive thing.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, it is absolutely positive. I really applaud the efforts. I mean, Games Workshop has publicly stated that we want to attract more women gamers.
Well, and if you but the thing is, like, if you look at like who's winning Golden Demons right now, I know that's why I made the comment. Like, yeah, I won mine a bunch of years ago.
How many exactly?
2.
That's not a bunch, man.
It's
You're still a fucking badass painter. Don't
But
give
I
yourself.
know, like a bunch
don't
of years
give
ago. A bunch of
yourself
years. It wasn't 2 years ago. I mean, it was like probably 15 years ago. But
Still.
the people that are doing it now, especially in Europe, a lot of them are women.
Oh,
Really?
And
I actually
like the best painters in the world are women.
That's
yeah,
fantastic.
I actually follow 4 or 5 female painters over that
Oh,
are
they can
all
paint-
from the UK
they
and
just
stuff.
paint
And
rings
they
around
are
me.
phenomenal
That's great.
painters.
Yeah.
I mean, I love looking at their stuff.
That's fantastic.
And-
That's great to hear.
I mean, so help me God, if I ever saw a comment that was like marginalizing them just because they're a girl painting, I'd be like, dude, you need to stuff it.
Yeah, fuck that
but-
shit. Yeah, seriously.
But I mean, they do an amazing job, and actually, there is a little bit of a biological genetic reason for that. Is that women are predisposed to having a greater sense of fine motor control than men
Oh, I agree with that.
because, I mean, genetically we don't need it,
yeah, we don't.
and so we don't. Not all of us guys have that developed super fine motor control thing, and I mean, I remember I was back in the day when I was hanging out at Phoenix Games. I had my girlfriend at the time with me, and she sat down and started painting models. She had no interest in playing. And man, her first models were phenomenal compared to what most people. And I'm like, holy hell, that's badass.
That's great.
And one of the guys there was like, yeah, you actually know that women have a little bit finer motor control than guys do.
Oh, yes.
And I'm like, okay, that makes sense. But at the same time, it didn't detract from how good of a job she did just right off the rip,
Wow. That's
and,
cool.
And so it is cool. And as a community, the thing I like seeing is when we all support each other. I don't like hearing people look at each other and be like, oh, so-and-so has no business painting nothing. I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
I want to hear, yeah, man, he needs, maybe a little direction. Let's sit down with him and see what we can do. Because in my life, I've had things where people have sat there. I've never been athletic. And I've had people, whenever I've tried to play sports and things, people just, degrade me and be shitty at me because I'm not good at basketball.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, instead of just being an asshole to me, why don't you teach me how to play better?
exactly.
And people don't like seeing that or hearing that. So that's why I really enjoyed running the hobby league, getting people, because there are so many people who I propose the idea to, and they're like, well, I don't know if I can actually play this or do this. I don't know if I could actually put these models together. And I'm like, do it, man, do it. And I did do a couple things right at the beginning of it where I was like inviting people over to, come and put their models together. And, if they needed help, I'd be right there to help them because I tend to be pretty decent at putting them together. And, I may not be all that great at painting them, but I can put them together just fine.
No, you paint fine.
You
Thanks.
do.
There's
You do
nothing wrong
better.
with your paint jobs.
Exactly.
But
He does better than he says.
I only see where I need improvement. But anyway,
That's natural.
regardless, and so the thing is, I'm there because I want these people to have a good experience, and I want them to get into this hobby that I love and these things that I enjoy, and that's why when Derek had kind of gotten disillusioned with the whole miniature gaming and stuff, and he's always been my buddy with the miniatures. I'm like, hey man, I'm tattooing you.
watch all this stuff. Look at these models. Get back into it. Let's do these things and stuff like that and yada 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 yada.
And and it,
Yep. Yeah. 5 armies later.
Yep. And so
That's
now
awesome.
five armies later and a good, healthy gaming social life, he's back in the saddle again. And
I just gotta start playing more. I haven't been doing enough of that.
Hashtag gaming crack every Thursday.
Yeah, I
Kill
mean-
team.
well, I mean, it also depends because Derek does live way the hell away from here. So
fucking Sonoy or whatever. So.
no, he lives in Snellville.
Snellville, close
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
So it's an hour and a
It's-
half away. Yeah. It's a little bit of a haul for him. So you know what? I'm happy when he can make it. I totally understand when he can't.
It's a good thing.
Yeah. But that being said, I think we're gonna kill it on that upbeat positive note. Anybody got any issues with it? Last
No, man,
remarks?
this has been a
No.
lot of fun.
No, we're good.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I honestly, God, I want to get back to the idea of magic markering a model.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean,
do
it's kind of inspired me to do the same. So I think that, let's do it, man.
Yeah, post it on that Facebook group.
Yeah.
Let's
Beer
share
Hammer
with each
Associates.
other and kind of see what we come up with. So
I really think he is about to suck your dick.
I mean,
I'm getting that vibe.
he's not.
I'm getting that vibe. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about
The
that.
oven's not fully preheated yet, but it's getting there.
All right. Well, on that note, we're gonna let Joe and Derek do whatever kind of kinky stuff they want to do, as long as it's not in my house. And I'm just kidding. I could care less, but the kids are here, so you got to go. Anyway, good night, everybody. Join our Beer Hammer Associates Facebook page. Also, check out plenty of other podcasts because there's a lot of other guys that are doing really great stuff and covering really cool stuff that you want to hear about. All in all, have a good fun time. Drink more beer. Play more Warhammer or whatever miniature game you like because Song of Ice and Fire is really damn good.
Yes, it is.
And we'll talk to y'all in about 2 weeks.